The voicemail was waiting for me when I got home from my shift at the diner. It was Thursday, October 12th. I remember the date because it was supposed to be my little sister Emma's 16th birthday party the next day. I had requested the day off work 3 weeks in advance. I'd bought her a silver necklace with her birthstone, wrapped it in purple paper because purple was her favorite color. The message light was blinking red on my answering machine, the same cheap machine I'd had since high school. Everything in my tiny apartment was secondhand, salvaged, or borrowed, but it was mine. It was the first space I had ever owned completely. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world are you watching from. I pressed play, expecting maybe Emma calling to confirm what time I should come over, or my mom with last-minute party details. Instead, I heard my mother's voice, cold and deliberate. Not the warm, familiar tone I had known for 23 years, but something clinical and final. "Sarah," she began, and even the way she said my name was different. Distant. "I need you to listen carefully because I'm only going to say this once. After a lot of discussion with your father and Emma, we've decided that you are no longer part of this family. Your lifestyle choices, your values, everything about the path you've chosen is incompatible with who we are and what we represent. Don't come to Emma's party tomorrow. Don't come to the house. We're moving on without you. You are not family anymore." The message ended with a sharp click. No goodbye, no explanation of what I had supposedly done wrong. Just an execution, delivered through a machine while I was serving coffee to truckers and construction workers, trying to make rent. I stood in my kitchen for a long time, staring at the answering machine. The red light had stopped blinking. The apartment was silent except for the hum of my ancient refrigerator. I rewound the message and played it again, certain I had misunderstood. But the words were the same. Cold. Final. Absolute. I had been erased. The lifestyle choices she mentioned weren't drugs or crime or anything destructive. I was 23, working 2 jobs, going to community college part-time, trying to build something from nothing. My great sin, the choice that had apparently made me incompatible with my own family, was that I was gay. I had come out to them 6 months earlier. Not dramatically, not as a grand announcement, just as a simple truth shared over Sunday dinner. I had brought my girlfriend Rachel with me, introduced her as my girlfriend, and waited for their response. The silence that followed was suffocating. My father had excused himself from the table. My mother had smiled tightly and asked Rachel if she wanted more potatoes. Emma, my baby sister who I adored, had looked confused and hurt, not because I was gay, but because I hadn't told her first. For 6 months, we had all pretended that conversation never happened. Rachel was never mentioned again. When I called, conversations were brief and awkward. When I visited, the atmosphere was strained. But I thought it was just an adjustment period. I thought they needed time. I thought love would eventually win. I was naive. My mother, Linda Pearson, had built her entire identity around being the perfect Christian wife and mother. She ran the church women's group, organized charity drives, and kept a spotless house in a respectable suburban neighborhood. She was the kind of woman who had opinions about everyone else's business and the social standing to make those opinions heard. My father, Robert, was a middle manager at an insurance company. He was quiet, methodical, and completely devoted to maintaining the image of a normal, successful family. Emma was their golden child, their fresh start. She was everything they wanted in a daughter: popular, pretty, straight, and completely aligned with their values. Then there was me, Sarah Pearson, the oldest child, the trial run, the one who had somehow gone wrong. I had always been different. I was too intense, too questioning, too interested in books and ideas that made them uncomfortable. In high school, I had challenged their political views, asked hard questions in Sunday school, and shown more interest in my female friends than in boys. They had dismissed it all as a phase, a rebellion they could pray away. But phases end. Truth doesn't. The phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. For a split second, I hoped it was my mother calling to take it all back, to say the message was a mistake, a moment of anger she didn't mean. Instead, it was Emma. "Sarah?" Her voice was small, uncertain. "Mom told me what she said. I'm sorry. I tried to change her mind." My heart broke a little more. Emma, at 16, was showing more compassion than our parents. "It's not your fault, Em. But it's not fair," she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. "You're my sister. You're supposed to be at my party tomorrow." "I know, baby. I know." I don't understand why they're doing this. You're the same person you've always been. That was the tragedy of it. I was exactly the same person I had always been. The only thing that had changed was their willingness to see me clearly. We talked for another few minutes, both of us crying. When she hung up, the apartment felt even more empty than before. I looked around at my small space, at the birthday present wrapped in purple paper sitting on my kitchen counter, and I realized that this was my new reality. I was alone. The next few weeks passed in a blur of shock and grief. I kept working my shifts at the diner and the bookstore, going through the motions of my life, while feeling completely hollow inside. I would catch myself reaching for the phone to call my mom about something trivial, then remember that I wasn't allowed to anymore. I would see something that would make Emma laugh and instinctively want to text her, then remember that contact might get her in trouble. Rachel was incredibly supportive, but I could see the concern in her eyes. I was shutting down, going through the motions of living without actually engaging with life. I had lost more than just my parents. I had lost my history, my sense of belonging, my identity as someone's daughter and sister. The first piece of hope came from an unexpected source. I was working the early shift at the diner when a woman about my mother's age sat down at the counter. She ordered coffee and pie, and as I served her, she noticed the small rainbow pin I wore on my uniform. It was tiny, barely visible, but it was my quiet way of staying true to myself in a world that felt increasingly hostile. "That's a brave thing to wear in a place like this," she said quietly. I looked around the diner, full of conservative middle-aged men in work clothes. She wasn't wrong. "Sometimes being brave is the only option left," I replied. She smiled. "I'm Dr. Patricia Reeves. I run a support group for LGBTQ young adults. We meet Thursday nights at the community center. You might find it helpful to talk to people who understand what you're going through." She left her card with her tip and walked away, leaving me with the first spark of hope I had felt in weeks. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. That Thursday night, I walked into a room full of people who had stories like mine. Some had been kicked out. Others had been sent to conversion therapy. A few had parents who were slowly coming around. But all of us understood the particular pain of being rejected by the people who were supposed to love us unconditionally. Dr. Reeves became my anchor. She was a psychologist who specialized in family dynamics and LGBTQ issues. She had 3 grown children of her own and a way of listening that made you feel heard and valued. In our individual sessions, she helped me understand that my family's rejection said nothing about my worth as a person and everything about their limitations. "You didn't become less worthy of love when you told them the truth," she said during one of our sessions. "You became more authentic. Their inability to love the real you is their failure, not yours." Through the support group, I met Marcus, a 25-year-old teacher whose parents had disowned him when he came out. He had been through the same devastation, the same grief, and had come out the other side stronger and more self-assured. He became my mentor, showing me that it was possible to build a family of choice that was stronger than any family of origin. "Blood doesn't make family," he told me one evening after group. "Love does. Acceptance does. Showing up for each other does. Your parents failed at being family. That doesn't mean you have to fail at finding it." I started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I threw myself into my studies, determined to finish college and create a career that would give me independence and security. I deepened my relationship with Rachel, learning to trust that not everyone would abandon me when things got difficult. I cultivated friendships with my chosen family from the support group, people who celebrated my authenticity instead of demanding I hide it. The first test of my new strength came a year later. Emma called me on a Saturday morning, sobbing. She was 17 now, a senior in high school, and she was struggling with depression. Our parents, in their typical fashion, were treating it as a character flaw rather than a medical issue. They refused to let her see a therapist, insisting that prayer and positive thinking would cure her. "I need help, Sarah," she cried into the phone. "I feel so alone. I miss you so much, and they won't even let me say your name." My heart shattered all over again, but this time, I knew what to do. I had resources now. I had Dr. Reeves. I had Marcus. I had a network of people who understood how to navigate family dysfunction. "Listen to me, Em," I said, my voice steady and sure. "You are not alone. I'm going to help you, but we have to be smart about it. Can you meet me somewhere they won't know about it?" We started meeting secretly once a week. I would pick her up from school, and we would go to a cafe across town where no one would recognize us. I helped her understand that what she was feeling wasn't weakness or sin. It was a medical condition that could be treated. I gave her coping strategies I had learned in therapy. Most importantly, I gave her the thing our parents had taken away from both of us: unconditional love and acceptance. Through Dr. Reeves's connections, I found a way for Emma to see a counselor at school without our parents' knowledge. Slowly, she started to heal. Her grades improved. She smiled more. She started making plans for college, for a future that extended beyond our parents' narrow vision of who she should be. But secrets have a way of coming to light. Our parents discovered our meetings when Emma's teacher called to praise the positive changes she had seen in Emma's attitude and mentioned that Emma had talked about getting support from her sister. The confrontation was swift and brutal. They forbade Emma from seeing me, threatened to send her to a boarding school, and made it clear that any further contact would result in severe consequences for her. Emma called me crying. "They're watching everything I do. They check my phone. They drive me to and from school. They won't let me go anywhere alone. I'm sorry, Sarah. I can't see you anymore." It was another abandonment, but this time I understood it differently. Emma wasn't choosing them over me. She was a minor, trapped in their house, dependent on them for everything. She was making the choice she had to make to survive until she turned 18. "I love you, Em," I told her, "and I'll be here when you're ready. Nothing will change that." The call ended, and I sat in my apartment, now a little bigger and nicer thanks to my new job at a nonprofit organization. I wasn't the same broken young woman who had been devastated by that first voicemail. I had built a life, a career, and a family that accepted all of me. My parents' rejection still hurt, but it no longer defined me. 2 years passed. I finished college, got promoted at work, and moved in with Rachel. We adopted a rescue dog named Scout and started talking about getting married. I had created the kind of life I wanted, surrounded by people who loved me for exactly who I was. Then, on a Tuesday evening in March, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my parents' home number, a number I hadn't seen on my phone in over 3 years. My heart pounded as I answered. "Sarah?" It was Emma, but she sounded different. Older, stronger. "Em, how are you calling me from the house?" "I'm 18 now," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "I turned 18 last week, and Mom and Dad are at some church retreat for the weekend. I graduate in 2 months, and I got into state university on a partial scholarship. I'm leaving for college in the fall, and I wanted to talk to you before I go." We talked for 3 hours. She told me about the last 2 years, about how she had survived in that house by remembering our conversations, by holding on to the truth I had given her about love and acceptance. She told me about her boyfriend, who knew about me and thought our parents were horrible. She told me about her plans to study social work so she could help other kids in situations like ours. "I never stopped missing you," she said, "and I never stopped being proud to be your sister." When our parents returned from their retreat, Emma told them exactly what I had told them 3 years earlier. Her truth, her authentic self, her refusal to live according to their narrow definitions of acceptable love. She told them she was moving out the day she graduated, that she planned to have a relationship with me, and that their approval was no longer a requirement for her happiness. Their response was predictable. Another rejection, another family member erased from their perfect picture. But this time, Emma was ready. She had watched what I had done, how I had survived and thrived, and she knew it was possible. She moved in with Rachel and me that summer. The 3 of us, plus Scout, became our own little family unit. We celebrated Emma's graduation, helped her prepare for college, and spent the summer healing from decades of conditional love by practicing the unconditional kind. On Emma's last night before leaving for college, we sat on our back porch talking about the future. She was excited and nervous and grateful. "I keep thinking about that voicemail," she said. "The one where Mom said you weren't family anymore." I nodded. "I thought about it sometimes too, though it no longer had the power to hurt me." "She was wrong," Emma continued. "Not about you not being their family. She was right about that. You're not their family anymore. You're something better. Your chosen family. Your real family." She was right. The people who had given birth to me, who had raised me for 23 years, had proven that biology alone doesn't create unbreakable bonds. They had shown me that love with conditions isn't really love at all. But in losing them, I had found something more valuable. People who loved me because of who I was, not despite it. Emma thrived in college. She called me regularly, visited during breaks, and never once acted ashamed of having a gay sister. She studied hard, made friends, and slowly healed from the damage our parents had done. In her junior year, she called to tell me she was engaged to her boyfriend, David, a kind young man who treated her with the respect and love she deserved. "I want you to be my maid of honor," she said. "I know Mom and Dad won't come if you're part of the wedding, but I don't care. You're my real family. You're the one who taught me what love actually looks like." The wedding was small and beautiful, held in the garden behind Dr. Reeves's house. Emma was radiant in a simple white dress. David looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Rachel and I had been planning our own wedding, and seeing Emma so happy made me even more excited about our future. As I walked Emma down the aisle, I thought about that voicemail, about the woman who had delivered it, about the family that had chosen their comfort over their daughter's happiness. They weren't there to see Emma's joy, to witness her beginning. They had made their choice years ago, and it had cost them everything that mattered. After the ceremony, Emma and I stood together in the garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "Do you ever wonder if they regret it?" she asked quietly. I considered the question. Our parents had lost both of their daughters, had chosen ideology over love, had prioritized the opinions of their church and community over the happiness of their own children. They were alone now, with nothing but their rigid beliefs to keep them warm. "I think regret requires the ability to admit you were wrong," I said finally. "And they've never been good at that." Emma nodded, leaning against my shoulder. "Their loss," she said simply. She was absolutely right. It was their loss. They had had two daughters who could have brought joy, love, and pride into their lives. Instead, they chose to cling to prejudice and lost everything that mattered. Meanwhile, Rachel and I got married the following spring. Emma was my maid of honor. Marcus walked me down the aisle, and Dr. Reeves officiated the ceremony. Our chosen family filled every seat. People who had shown up for us when it mattered, who had loved us through our darkest moments and celebrated our brightest ones. 5 years later, Emma called with news that changed everything. "Sarah," she said, her voice shaking with excitement, "David and I are pregnant. I was going to be an aunt. Emma was going to be a mother. And our child was going to grow up knowing that love comes in many forms, that family is defined by actions rather than biology, and that authenticity is always worth the price you pay for it." As I hung up the phone and shared the news with Rachel, I thought about that voicemail one more time. The woman who had left it had tried to erase me, to remove me from the story of her family. Instead, she had freed me to write my own story, to create my own family, to live my own truth. I had lost parents who loved me conditionally and gained a sister who loved me completely, a wife who cherished every part of me, and a chosen family that celebrated my authenticity. I had learned that being rejected by the wrong people is sometimes the first step toward being embraced by the right ones. The voicemail that was meant to end my story had actually begun it. The woman who told me I wasn't family anymore had unknowingly set me free to discover what family really means. And in the end, that rejection had been the greatest gift she could have given me, even though she never intended it that way.